right now I can see 103 people, including me, in the audience. So I welcome you all. DG sir, I welcome you for this webinar on your initiation. We are taking up this subject once again for deliberation with all the states. There are state technical agencies, principal technical agencies, chief engineers, EIUs, officers from NRIDA and SRRDAs. We hope our STAs and PTAs will support us in further implementation along with Professor Kandhal, and that is why we requested all of them to be present over here. So we will start, sir, with a brief introduction of Professor Kandhal, and then I will request him to start his presentation. Professor Prithvi Singh Kandhal is a well-known figure in the transportation engineering sector. He is Associate Director Emeritus of the National Center for Asphalt Technology, NCAT, based at Auburn University, Alabama, USA. NCAT is the largest asphalt road technology center in the world. Prior to joining NCAT in 1988, Professor Kandhal served as Chief Asphalt Road Engineer of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for 17 years. He has served as President of the Association of Asphalt Paving Technologies, Chairman of the American Society for Testing and Materials, ASTM, International Committee on Road Paving Standards, and Chairman of the U.S. Transportation Research Board Committee on Asphalt Roads. Professor Kandhal has published more than 120 technical papers and has co-authored the first ever textbook on asphalt road technology, which is used by more than 25 universities in the US. He has traveled to various countries across the world to provide training and consulting services in asphalt technology. Professor Kandhal has been a practicing highway engineer in India for over 25 years and in the US for 30 years. In recent years, he has drafted many standards for the Indian Roads Congress, including specifications for dense graded bituminous mixes, stone matrix asphalt, and ready-made pothole patching mix. He was also instrumental single-handedly in introducing viscosity grading of bitumen in India in lieu of penetration grading in 2005. He has now published in July 2016 the first ever textbook cum reference book, Bituminous Road Construction in India. And this is being referred by many asphalt engineers in the country. In April 2012, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award in Asphalt Road Technology from the International Association of Asphalt Paving Technologies during their annual banquet held in Austin, Texas, USA.
I'm Ashish Goel, Director General NRIDA, as well as Joint Secretary Rural Development, looking after PMGSY. So Professor Kandhal has been writing to us for a long time about the issue of surface dressing. And first of all, I welcome Professor Kandhal to this webinar. And I want to give him the news that even before this webinar, we have taken your suggestion very, very seriously. And in the previous month, out of the sanctions that we have issued to various states, we have enforced and we have asked the states to use surface dressing on low volume rural roads. So, but we felt that a wider dissemination of the issues associated with surface dressing is needed, and who better to educate and orient all our officers than Professor Kandhal. So I welcome Professor Kandhal to this webinar, and sir, I think under your guidance and technical support, we would be able to achieve surface dressing and economy in cost and also quality in roads. Thank you very much, sir. I again welcome you, and I ask you to go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank the Ministry of Rural Development for organizing this webinar and also giving me the opportunity to interact with all you fellow highway engineers. With that, I will upload try to upload my PowerPoint. Construction of surface dressing in India. I'll just give you some nuts and bolts of that. And here we have, again, a train. Bitumen is being spread, stone chip are being spread, and there's a roller behind it. So it's like a train which goes very fast. So as I mentioned before, the Indian Roads Congress has the code IRC 110, adopted in 2005, I think revised in 2005, Code of Practice for Design and Construction of Surface Dressing. It's a very excellent code, which an average civil engineer can understand. Then we also have the Ministry of Road Transport specification on surface dressing in the book year 2013. So I'll just go you through the how do we use the mechanized surface dressing. And I should mention at this point in time is that all my slides don't have any copyright. I'll send you a copy of all the slides I'm showing to you. Feel free to use them. That's the way we can spread the word. That's the way we can train people in that. So let's talk about the materials first. I'll talk about the binder and then the aggregate. So the binder types, we have two types. We can use paving bitumen VG10, viscosity VG10, which is equivalent to our old 85 by 100. Or we can use a rapid setting cationing emulsion. I would prefer that because it's a cold technology. So I think we should use more of this one, although both are allowed in our specification. And here are the spraying temperature. For paving bitumen, we have to heat it to this high temperature. And whereas for emulsion, we have to just warm it 50 to 70 degrees Celsius. So here are the binder, and now here we have the aggregate. These are the two most commonly used sizes. We have 13 millimeter and 10 millimeter. There are 19 millimeter and 6 millimeter as well in our standard. But I'm just discussing only these two because these are very, very common. This one is passing 13.2, retained on 9.5 millimeters. So it's essentially one size. This is passing 9.5, retained on 6.3, again, one size stone. So those the aggregate we have to use. We have to order those. If we have to use pre-coated aggregate, which I'm advocating right now, that we must go to 100% on pre-coated aggregate. That's my recommendation. In that, we will use 0.75 to 1% VG10 by weight of aggregate to pre-coat the aggregate uniformly. And the pre-coating will be done in an approved hot mix plant. After we pre-coat the aggregate and we stockpile it, we have to cure it for at least 1 week. Just after, when it comes out of the hot mix plant, it's always free flowing. We have to make it free flowing so that chip spreader can spread it. But if you cure it for 1 week, it makes it more free flowing. And it should be free flowing, not sticky. If it is sticking, no, then it won't work at all. But with this kind of bitumen content, usually there's no problem. It's free flowing. Now weather. If we are using a VG10, then minimum air temperature is 16 degrees Celsius, and the condition of existence should be dry. Because hard bitumen, we need a dry surface. With the emulsion, we can get by with 10 degrees Celsius minimum air temperature. So we can do it in quite many months in a year. And surface can be either dry or damp, doesn't matter. If it's damp, it's okay because emulsion already has some 1/3 water in there. So damp will be fine. I'm just giving you some highlights of that IRC 110. It's all in there, but I'm just taking some main points from there, which I think we can promote to implement the surface dressing. Preparation of base, whether it's a WBM or WMM, water-bound macadam or wet mix macadam. Remove depressions by adding new material, because surface dressing is not going to take care of the depressions. Even the premix carpet cannot take care of most of the depressions. And then we use hard and soft brushes to remove caked earth and blow off fine dust from the WBM or WM surface. Then we apply MC30 cutback bitumen as primer. Cure it for 48 hours before applying the surface dressing. Now, in the primer, we can also use slow setting emulsion, which is in their books. But MC30 cutback is highly effective. It really penetrates well. Whether it's you are laying the bituminous concrete or whatever, there is no equal to MC30 cutback, which is already in our books. It's not something which we are promoting. And here we can see that the prime coat is being applied with the Indian sprayer. And then now we are talking about the preparation of the old bituminous surface. I don't know whether you can see there on the top something already covered. Yeah. If we are talking about the old bituminous surface, which might be PMC, old PMC, or old surface dressing or whatever, still we have to remove the depressions and repair all potholes, remove foreign material by means of mechanical vacuum sweeps and blowers. Then we apply the bituminous binder, apply heated binder at the specified rate using a mechanized bitumen distributor fitted in the spray bars with nozzles. It's available all across India because we are using it for prime coat and tack coat and sometimes stabilization. Pre-calibrate the spray system to obtain the desired rate. Before we bring this bitumen distributor on the job, it should be pre-calibrated off the site to make sure that it applies the amount of binder as we want to be. Use a building paper of sufficient length to obtain the desired rate at the starting point. All this explained in this IRSC 110. I'll show you some picture of that because once the application starts, then we don't want too much of binder at one place and start to bleed. So we want to have just like cut off and start off at the exact point where we want to try. So here we have the bitumen emulsion is being sprayed for surface dressing. And as you can see, it appears like brown, and after some time it will appear, brown will become black before you apply the chips. So again, another example of bitumen distributor. Now here you can see the building paper here. This is the building paper. We are starting the operation on the building paper. So building from here to on that side. So we don't have too much of binder buildup, and when it starts at the end of the building paper on that side, we get the desired rate. Again, we have a case of bitumen distributor applying bitumen. Now, this is a case of a non-uniform binder application. You can see the streaking here. Some of the nozzles might be clogged. So we don't get a uniform coverage here. You can see some space in between. So we have to make sure that all the nozzles are working and the equipment has been calibrated. So here are the approximate rate of binder applications. These are the things which we have to convey to the people when we are training them. There can be a range, many adjustments can be made, but we should, in my opinion, we should start with these application rates. So if we have aggregate size of 13 millimeter, and if I'm using VG10, then it should be 1.0 kilogram per square meter. If I'm using emulsion, it should be 1.5. Now this emulsion is higher rate because 1/3 of that is water. After the water is gone, I'll be left with 1.0, the residual bitumen, which I call them. If I use a 10 millimeter size stone, then 0.9 will be the VG10, 1.3 will be the emulsion. So as you can see here, that I need a higher amount of binder if the stone thickness is higher, because stone has to be embedded 70% in the binder. So the bitumen application rate depends upon the size of the stone and also depends upon what kind of binder I'm using. So just follow this table. That's a good starting point. Now we apply the aggregate. We already talked about the binder, how much to apply, what kind of binder to use. Now we apply aggregate using a mechanized chip spreader. Again, I'm repeating all these things for the people who are still not convinced that the mechanized equipment is not available in India, available from Gujarat. As soon as binder is sprayed, calibrate the chip spreader to obtain the desired application. Before you bring out the chip spreader on the job, off the site, make sure that it applies the right amount of chips to the binder. Aggregates should be clean, pre-coated with bitumen if specified. And again, I'm saying let's go with 100% pre-coating, so that the dust won't be any problem. And here you can see a mechanized chip spreader. Again, a typical truck, mounted on a typical truck. This is in action. And again, this one is in a foreign country. Pre-coated chips is being spread. And the surface, doesn't look, aggregate is like blackish, so public won't complain if perception is the problem. Then we application rate of aggregate. Again, just use these which I'm giving you. If you use a 13 millimeter aggregate size, application rate in cubic meter per square meter is 0.009 to 0.001. Maybe you start in the middle and see whether it's okay or not. If I got excess aggregate, then I lower it. If I got deficient aggregate, I make it. It's like art. You have to perfect on the job. If you have 10 millimeter size, then the rate is lower, obviously. So these are the starting point. And that's what we want to teach them. We don't want to confuse them with too many factors at this point in time. Rolling immediately after the aggregate is spread, roll the surface with pneumatic tire roller. Roll with a tandem steel wheel roller only if pneumatic tire roller is not available. Do not roll excessively. If you roll too much, you will just break the stone. And that's not desirable. So here we have a pneumatic tire roller in a foreign country, and we have this kind of roller available in India. We are using on a regular hot mix construction. And again, in South India, I think somewhere in South India is a surface dressing is done without pre-coated chips. And again, a view of the surface dressing. And here is a road, completed with surface dressing, a village road. And 2 or 3 more slides, and then I'll be done. If I am going to use a second coat of surface dressing, if double surface dressing is desired, then second coat should be applied after the first coat has been used by traffic for 2 to 3 weeks. And now that's a must, because the aggregate has been already laid flat by the roller, but we still need some traffic action to knead it and make it very, very stable. If the aggregate is not stable, then the second coat won't stick the first coat. The aggregate used in the second coat is smaller than that used in the first coat, so that smaller size can fit into the voids of the bigger size, partially fit into that. Follow the process same as the first coat, using binder aggregate application rates conforming to the smaller size of the aggregate. Opening to traffic. If possible, open the road to traffic on the following day. Now that may not be possible in most cases. If it's not possible, then speed of the traffic should be limited to 20 km per hour till the following day. Aggregate may get dislodged under fast moving traffic. If we have cars going very fast, not only we can get the windshield might get damaged, we might dislodge even the aggregate which is already stuck in the binder. So excess aggregate should be swept off before opening to traffic. And here the last slide is the surface dressing work after 2 or 3 years. And it appears somewhat blackish at that point in time. Dr. Pateriya, on to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation on mechanized surface dressing, showing us the glimpses of application in India as well as in some other countries. So, sir, with this, I'll now request our DG sir to make his comments on the today's webinar.
Thank you. I want to thank all the participants from all the states that have participated in this webinar. Many chief engineers, and I can see some CEOs of SRRDA, they have participated. Professor Veera Raghavan is there, and Professor Guru Vittal is there. So I thank all of them for their valuable time. And what Professor Kandhal has made us aware of, it's a huge opportunity for us to transform the road construction sector, and let us take the points forwarded by Professor Kandhal very seriously, do a lot of research. I think NRIDA should also put in a lot of emphasis here and commission studies which we can then adopt under Indian conditions. So there is a lot to be studied about surface dressing so as to instill more confidence here. And at the same time, we need to adopt it at the practical level also, and not just on a pilot basis. Earlier, the appeal was that for premix carpeting, automatic machines were available and the whole process could be mechanized. Now the same has been made available for surface dressing as well. So this holds a great promise, and we need to seriously think of that. And we certainly at NRIDA will take a very hard look at this as well as, and try to promote as much as possible and convince the states to go in for surface dressing, because both as is made out in presentation today, both financially as well as technically, it seems to be a better technology. So I think both at the level of engineers and academics, it needs much more attention and support. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kandhal, for attending the webinar. Thank you all the participants, Professor Veera Raghavan, Professor Guru Vittal, and NRIDA team led by Dr. Pateriya. Thank you very much.